Hello, my name is Russell Myers, independent for U.S. President for 2024. Let me start off with something that may seem like it's not related to jobs per se. Now, about 75% of commercial mortgage backed securities, CMBS, are paying only interest payments right now. The capital of 40% of commercial mortgage loans mature this year, which means that the borrowers will have to pay the entirety of the capital of those loans. Now, most commercial mortgage loans originate from small and regional banks. If borrowers are unable to pay down capital and struggle with only interest payments, they will be unable to renegotiate loans on maturity. Since commercial real estate tenancy has declined, no matter how low the price is, chances of finding a new buyer is going to be extremely low. So if they default on these loans, which it is expected that we are going to see a plague of defaults on commercial mortgages beginning this year. And 40% of commercial mortgages mature this year. An estimated 80% of commercial mortgages mature between now and 2025. So if these loans go into default, what happens to the small and regional banks? And what happens to credit? Well, credit is already tightening, and what happens from there is that the ones that get hit by this the hardest are small businesses. Okay, so there's always this debate between right and left about the size of the government and government jobs, etc. But you think about this. If you get your hours cut, you get your wages cut, you get your benefits cut, you get laid off, your small business fails. What are you going to do? If everyone is getting laid off, there are no jobs available, what are you going to do? Who are you going to turn to? So there's always this thing about, well, we don't want to pay people for sitting around. This is why I have the policy of creating millions of living wage jobs working directly for the federal government. And using this to benefit our societies. A large part of this would be to increase medical care. We all agree we need more mental health care. Most Americans agree that we want universal health care. Okay, so how do we do this? And a lot of people say, well, it's too expensive. As long as we continue paying corporate profits, yes, it's going to be too expensive. Let me show you a little chart here. The biggest problem here is that you keep on paying corporations. Well, corporations always want to make more and more profits. It's not just a matter of them wanting more absolute dollars in profits. It's that they want a higher percentage of profits. Between in the last 10 years, let's say, in the last 10 years, since 2012, the cost of a colonoscopy in 2012 was right about $3,000. Today, that same colonoscopy costs $5,000. That is an increase of, what is that, 75, 80%? 80% increase in the cost of a basic test, which has become more and more common. I'm supposed to be scheduled for one this year. And I went to the doctor in February. You know when it's scheduled? November 1st. Oh, but, socialized medicine will increase our wait times. More than that? It's like more than a 9-month wait for a basic medical test? All right, so let me go to this chart that I was going to show you. Now, keep in mind, 2011 was when when the ACA came into effect. So this chart shows healthcare services revenue from 2010 to the present. So over here on the far left, that's 2010. Then you come up to 2011. Look what starts happening right in 2011. And ever since then, now it peaks in 2018. So look what happened there. Look at just how much more we are paying. Look how much more it costs for medical care, and what the revenue, what the profits are for medical care. So if we stopped paying all of these corporate profits and instituted a national health service, then we wouldn't be paying for corporate profits. We wouldn't be paying for advertising. We wouldn't be paying $30 million for a CEO. And that's not even counting the, chief financial officers, chief operating officers, all of the corporate executives, and their stock dividends, and their bonuses, and all of these other things. When you're paying for health insurance, you're paying for all of these things. Advertising, that for the health industry, that is tens of millions of dollars per day that is spent on advertising that you would no longer be paying. None of that goes into providing medical care. All right? None of that pays into providing actual medical care. Insurance companies, hospital systems, etc., etc. You're paying for all of this advertising, all of these multi-million-dollar salaries. You're also paying for insurance agent commissions every single month. And what's the quality of the care? Well, compared to other countries, when 11 countries were ranked, the 11 top industrialized countries were ranked in quality of health care, the United States came in at number 11. So if we start creating jobs, improving health care, expanding health care for rural and low-income communities, we we improve the quality of care. For $1 in preventive care, we save about $10 in care for people that have worse medical outcomes. If you pay $1 for insulin, you don't have to, you decrease the risk of having a person in ICU with diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA. If you pay for, monitoring a person with, high blood pressure, the chances that they have a heart attack or stroke later, and then you're paying for that. Okay, so you pay $1 or $2 for, blood pressure medication instead of $10,000 doing a heart catheterization, treatment, months of treatment for a stroke, etc. All right, addiction treatment. Right now, we have our government talking about invading Mexico. Meanwhile, we've got images coming across of drug cartels with military-grade weapons, anti-tank weapons that they allegedly purchased from Ukraine that we paid for to send over there. But we have the largest incarcerated population in world history. At 25% of the global incarcerated population is in the United States. 25%. Even though we only account for 4% of the world's population, somewhere around that. Well, so how long has the drug war been going on? It started with Nixon. It escalated under Reagan, and it's been increasing ever since then. And what's been the result? We've had the meth crisis. We've got that's still going on. The opiate crisis, fentanyl, bath salts, Flocka. It just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. So what is our response? Let's increase the number of police. Let's arrest more people. Let's build more prisons. And none of that is working, is it? We've had 50 years of a drug war, and this has been the result. Heaven forbid that we start treating addiction as an illness rather than a crime, which would keep families together, keep people in their jobs, treat them as human beings instead of pariahs. Well, okay, let's expand addiction treatment, train people, and pay for that instead of paying for prisons. We just take the money from prisons and from police, from the FDA, the DEA, the DHS, etc. We take that funding and we transfer it over to treating people as human beings. Train people in addiction treatment. Spend the money on their treatment, their therapy, etc. Okay? It costs less money to treat addiction rather than to incarcerate a person. And as a corrections nurse, I can tell you that in the corrections system, there is no problem getting hold of drugs. I walk into a jail unit and I can smell marijuana or Flocka being smoked in these on these units. And I can't tell you how many people I have treated for, bath salts, Flocka, and some of them die. Instead, how about we just treat them? Infrastructure. Let me give you an example here of this problem. In Philadelphia, you've probably seen the footage of a major bridge, an I-95 in Philadelphia, that collapsed after a tanker truck caught fire. And that is expected to be, it's going to take 6 months or more to rebuild that bridge. So let me give you an example as a comparison. You might not like the example, but Russia built the Crimean Bridge, which is the longest bridge in Europe over water. You know how long it took them to do that? 2 years. It took them 2 years to build that bridge, but it's going to take us 6 months to rebuild a 100, 200 yard section of a bridge. Why? Why is it going to take us that long? It really should not take us more than a few weeks to rebuild that section of bridge. So even without a fire, we've got roads, bridges, dams collapsing. Remember New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, the barriers collapsed, flooding the city because they had not been properly maintained. And New Orleans is still struggling to recover from that all these years later. We've got sea levels rising. We have to invest in our infrastructure. We've got smaller communities that have resources that they would like to exploit to improve their condition, but they don't have the right transportation, decent roads to get to and from those locations. Between Montgomery, Alabama, and almost all the way to Atlanta, there is a major highway that has only 2 lanes each direction, that has a high traffic level with trucks on a daily basis. And if you've been in these situations, you know that's going to slow traffic down. If there is an accident on this highway, traffic backs up for miles. Trust me on this. These things, and we won't spend money on it, but we can spend more money on warfare and policing and prisons. Let's invade Mexico, but let's not spend money on our own people and improve our outcome. This is where I want to divert money that is already being spent. So when we're talking about how will you pay for it, well, divert the money that is already being spent on the drug war, on militarism, and on policing, on prisons. Divert it to something more constructive. Create jobs, living wage jobs, which will make the private industry have to compete on wages to attract workers. We would not have any problem. There wouldn't be any debate about, immigrants coming from other countries when we have far more jobs available than, are currently available that are living wage jobs. You wouldn't be worried about it. In fact, you would welcome them with open arms so that jobs are being done. If you got laid off from your job, or your small business fails, and the government says, okay, here's a job, instead of welfare, which has this emotional impact, which has a stigma attached to it. No, here's a job. You can stay productive. You don't have to stay in that job. You can work this job for a limited period of time, or you can work that job until you retire and claim a pension for the rest of your life. You can have benefits, medical care, child care, etc. And yeah, we'd be paying for it. Instead of paying corporate profits and paying for bombs and paying for more militarized police. That is how we would pay for it. And then we would increase our GDP. We would increase the productiveness of our society. We would have a healthy, productive society that wasn't ranking at number 11 in healthcare. That wasn't ranking 48 in math. Below some, third world countries. We wouldn't be having the debates that we're having now. If people used to compete for government jobs because they paid well, because they had good benefits, etc., people still do. So why is there always this thing about, oh no, the private sector can do better? No, the private sector cannot do better. When you're paying for corporate profits, multi-million-dollar CEO wages and benefits and private jets, you're paying for all of that. You pay for all of that. We can do better. In 2020, look at all the millions of people that got laid off. The corporations, rather than paying wages, and instead of us, say, handing money, well, even in the cases where we handed corporations money, like the airlines, we handed them $25 billion. Why? To preserve jobs. This was supposed to go to the wages of the workers that were not working. 3 or 4 months later, they're back at Congress asking for another handout after getting $25 billion. And meanwhile, other people we had this major debate about, people getting paid for sitting around and doing nothing. And that was the height. That was on an extreme. But it's not a new debate. It's been going on for decades. We can create other options as companies are laying off, and it's going to get worse as these commercial loans go into default. What happens? Well, that affects small businesses that are housed in office complexes and malls, and they have no place else to go. This affects you. This affects you. Where do these workers go? Where do the small business owners go when their business winds up shutting down through no fault of their own? How do we replace that? Hundreds of thousands of small businesses have closed since 2020, and most of them have no chance of reopening. Give those people a job. Give them decent wages. Give them benefits. Improve our society along the way. Make positive changes. This is what I want to do. Are you with me on this? All right. If so, leave a comment. If you're opposed to it, leave a comment. Share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand my campaign. And I will catch you the next time. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a good day.